Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Friends and Vibe. Oh, I'm going to start again. Oh my God, I'm a funny woman. Okay, here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Friends in High Vibrational Places. It's our second season. I'm so happy to be here with you again today, and we have yet another remarkable guest, friend, high viber. And today we are welcoming Theresa Vee. And Theresa is such an interesting combination of so many gifts and so many services and so much insight and vision. And so today our conversation will be able to, like they all do, offer you your personal word from the universe, that little bit of information that drops in right at the time when you need it, just to illumine the piece that you next need. That's what we're here for, to have a conversation that can be in service to you and the world. So just a little bit about Theresa. She is an international speaker. She is an angelic channel. She is a seer, a guide, a way shower. She works with people to really empower them, to get them connected to that truth of who they are and their freedom and their true essence and really thriving in the world. She also has studied Ayurveda and is a New Yorker of all things, right? So like when we bring in all these interesting aspects of our multidimensionality, we land in all the places of the world. We do all of the things. She and I, no different. She is certainly one of those. And I'm honored to call her my friend and colleague. So welcome to the show, Theresa.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's so good to be here.
It's good to be here. We were just talking about how while we talk on the phone, we haven't had a lot of FaceTime. And we're like, oh, there you are. It's so good to see your face.
It's
And the first time that we met in person, we were introduced by a mutual friend because we had all been guests on the same telesummit. And I was walking the beach of Waikiki with you. You had come out from New York for a vacation with your beloved, and what an amazing time. And we were just speaking into that before starting today about water and that special water there. And I don't know why I'm called to open up with that element. I know there are so many places you and I are going to go today. We're going to be talking about all the ways that things are, the information in our worlds, in our 3D world, 4, 5D, how we can be with that, navigate that, thrive in that. And for some reason, I'm drawn to just move right into the power of water. Now, you have a special relationship with that area, that place in particular. Yeah, tell us about that.
yeah, I went to Waikiki for the first time in this lifetime when I was 16 and I was on a school trip with some friends and a chaperone. And I actually hid because I didn't want to go home. It was like I really felt that that was my resonance, that was my place in the world. And they had to come find me to bring me back to New York.
Wow.
Yeah, but I actually said the last time we left, the next time I set foot on Waikiki, I am never leaving. And so, yeah.
So maybe that's why you're not going back quite yet, because you're waiting for your life to align. You know that it's actually that's amazing that that's a next step. I found those waters fascinating and incredibly activating. I'm a water person. I mean, obviously, I
Mhm.
live here in Hawaii, and I've noticed that lately the waters here are different. There's a different energy. There's something new coming alive. There's a the way that Joan Ocean, who also lives on this island, described what the whales had shown her about water is that it holds the whole of the Akashic record and that
Mhm.
all of that information is in the physicality. And what I'm noticing is that is changing right now. That's actually different. I get in and I'm like, oh my God. The best way I can describe it is this feeling of like crystalline silk. And it's so exquisite and so beautiful. I also know when I got in the waters at Waikiki with you, it did a massive throat chakra activation, and it is the island for the throat chakra. And I didn't know that until I was there. And it was so beautiful. So, that power of water, the way that information is carried that helps us, maybe that's why we're starting here. There's
Yeah.
information always in all of the places that's here to support us and guide us. and lead us to that next piece that we need. Yeah.
The power of water is, there's so much to say about that, but one of the places I find that sensitive and empathetic people do get stuck in their lives is when they're having a little bit of trepidation about moving forward
Mm.
and, aren't really sure what the next step looks like. One of the first things we do is we stop drinking water. And so we stop the flow in our lives by stopping the flow in our bodies. And, that's just so interesting to me that that's like one of the things, there's so much, every element of this earth, the earth provides so much to support us and keep us moving. And every time I speak to somebody who's on the cusp of something, I'm saying, how much are you drinking? "Mm, not enough." Well, of course you're not, because you're not ready. So that's always really interesting. But I'm loving right now what's happening in the collective in terms of the balancing of the masculine feminine energy. Like Waikiki has such a divinely masculine energy. That's how I experience the island. And it's so balanced, and the water carries so much flow and so much femininity. And
Mm.
I feel like the waters now, especially in the Lemurian areas of the world, are activating that sacred feminine leadership, that sacred feminine paradigm
Mm.
in us and for us. And I feel when you were talking about the whales and the crystalline silk, it's like the whales have released the Akash so we can remember, and we're actually bathing in it. We're being bathed in it. And yeah, it's just such a wonderful way. Instead of, we're always fighting our way as humans into the next, and like fighting against and fighting for. And what a wonderful way to not have to fight and just allow ourselves to be bathed and brought in and nourished into. I don't know. It's just water is just magic to me. I just adore water. I could swim. I could swim all day, every day.
I'm so with you in that. It is magic. And I love how you, gosh, that's it, I when you I had never made that connection, by the way, so thank you. That's my little aha from the universe. And I notice I go through these waves with my intake of fluid, of water in particular. I had not made that connection, but that just lit up like a little firecracker. I was like, oh, that's so good. And then also that feminine aspect of the water, and even the words that you use to describe it, bathing in it, receiving it, and we don't effort into that. It's just being immersed and letting that do us in a way. And yeah, that's really, really beautiful.
Just so much efforting right now.
You think?
Like, so
Oh
much.
my God. Everything is so overrated. Well, speak into that a little more because that just feels so deeply programmed and ingrained in our biology, in our
100%.
minds. Ooh, big time in that astral fourth dimensional realm. Yeah, what comes to you for that right now?
Well, just to see everything that's going on in the world and all the things we want to address and want to fix and have our opinions on how to do it, and to make sure everybody else understands our opinions and shares them and realizes we're right. It's all so much effort. It's like rolling the stone uphill all day, every day to as a means to an end we're going to get to anyway, but it's never going to be the way we think, right? So it's just, if we could just allow ourselves to tap into the support that's here for us, the magic that the earth brings to us, and kind of be carried through some of this. That doesn't mean not doing the things we're called to do, not showing up in the ways we're called, but the replenishment can be so much more efficient if we let ourselves stop efforting for like 2 seconds. And I just feel like this is another remnant of old paradigm stuff that is the way we learned, and we haven't really in this lifetime observed anything else. And da 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 da, like the old story. And we're relearning now. We're relearning how to be instead of do. And that's it's going to be integral for the next few years that we allow ourselves to relearn that.
I love that so much. I'm really dropping into that vibrational stream as you talk about that. And because when we let something go, that's a type of surrender and allowance. if we're letting go and releasing the efforting, we're also embracing a new way, which you're describing and speaking into. And I really feel what you're speaking, which is we don't, as humans, most of us, and as a collective, and we don't really know that other way yet. We're learning it. Like you said, it's a time of learning. But I also feel what you're speaking into is it's a time of surrender, of letting go of of business as usual. Like, oh my gosh. And then here's our sweet brains, our little pattern seeking devices, seek
Mhm.
pleasure, avoid pain, make sure to go with what's familiar and comfortable. And we're talking about a whole new way of navigating life. So, of course, it's not comfortable. And, that's actually something I've been looking at, which is we talked about this a little bit, how some of the ways that in the past we've addressed our various selves, our 3D self, our 4D self, all the ways that we tend ourselves, both physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, they're not necessarily working those same things. I'm seeing this with so many people and conversations with colleagues like you. It's like, yeah, it's not what used to sort of settle my nervous system, maybe doesn't anymore. What used to bring me back to, I wouldn't even call it center. It's like a place of comfort or not as much discomfort. It doesn't relieve the comfort. And what I noticed, I come back to center, but I'm not necessarily comfortable. We think of like, oh, when I come back to center, I feel real good. Maybe, but maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah.
What does
I don't
that
know.
look like to you?
I was just actually kind of having this conversation yesterday with my husband, which is really funny because I was talking about how I've been personally in the fire energy so much recently, like that divine feminine mother, Kali goddess, Durga goddess, destroyer energy, because that's, you know, and I was like asking my guides, like, what's going on here? Like, why am I so off balance? And they're like, you're not off balance, you are activated. And I was like,
Ah,
right. So I was talking about that and then saying and then having to bring that back to love. And he said, "Well, you have to pick one or the other." And I said, "They're not different. They're the same thing, but bringing yourself back to center within that. Like being in fire all the time is not necessarily comfortable to me, but how do I center myself in that fire of change and bring myself back to the love that it truly is? Like the destroyer goddess is the most compassionate goddess because she's got the guts to do what no one else has the guts to do in service to the light. And so it's been a really personally interesting time of that integration and that bringing yourself as much to center as possible within an area you're not necessarily comfortable with, because I mean if I'm walking around fired up all the time also, like, other people, aren't you the angel lady? Like, you know what I mean? It's
you're like,
like
I'm a fire angel. I'm a fire
exactly,
angel.
like, currently, you know, um, but, when you are here and when you sign up to be in service, you're going to be in service in the way that is needed where you are in the moment you're in. And that's what you have to get comfortable with, right? Because you're asking, this is what you've asked for. So there's comfort in that, in the knowing, but there's discomfort in the way it might look or feel.
So beautifully said. So true. So to me, so spot on. Lands both in everything that I'm looking at and also for me personally. And I know so well that journey you're talking about, where we're really talking about, oh, well, love is that upper half of the vibrational spectrum and it feels like really good up here. And it's actually the whole spectrum. And in service, we are called to embody the whole spectrum. And dang, that is
Mm.
not for the faint of heart. It's really not. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Ah,
and I really give credit to my partner and partners to all the ones like us because it's not easy. And the relatives and the friends, it's not easy. Like it's not easy being here, but it's not easy relating either. And
mhm.
um And I feel like we're all making that space for each other right now. We're in this phase of rediscovery after a global traumatic event still, right? We still have all of that trauma we're processing, all of that. We're rediscovering who we are in light of a new paradigm, in light of all that's happened before. And at the same time, we're being activated and called into the next incarnation of who and what we need to be. This is this is not a time for the faint of heart. This is just not.
I'm loving looking. No, it's not. I'm loving looking at with you because you are the angel lady. I mean, you still are the angel lady. You have such an intimate, direct connection with angels and channel them so beautifully and so purely and clearly. And so it feels to me as I ask you this question, well, of course you've checked in with them about all of your fire. This conversation around like for yourself personally, hey, what's the deal here? I mean, do you have any insight from that realm for you personally? Because I feel like it actually will relate to everyone who's listening.
So for me personally, it's kind of like so they haven't stepped back. They're still there. But right now, the fire of Divine Mother is the force that needs to come through. And they're holding the space for me to have the energy to bring that through. And when I check in with them about the paradigm, and I'm just like, okay, right, like I don't want to just be a fire breathing dragon. Like I want this to have purpose. Um, when I check in with them about that, they keep saying humanity has the choice. And, they can't tell us which choice we're going to make. They're saying you have the choice to go the route of more ease and grace or the route of more pain. And it's really up to you. And so that's kind of what they're saying. And they're just like, we are here in support. We can support. And so that's kind of, people are always saying, well, what are they saying about this? And what did they say about this? And the answer is always the same. Like right now, everything that happens is the choice of humanity. And they can help us get centered. They can help us get centered in our heart. They can help us make decisions from a place of more knowingness, but they can't decide for us. And that is uncomfortable for the angels actually, because they would love to be able to just make everything as ease and grace filled as possible so that we can live our purpose and we can have this world based in love and harmony and heaven on earth. But that's not the choice that we're making as a whole all the time. And so that's kind of the conversations that have been happening over here, with the various angels, and they all bring their particular flavor to the table as well. And it's been very interesting to me also to see who steps up for certain jobs right now because I've always known Raphael as like the healing angel and he works with like the physical healing. And right now he's like, nope, I am here to help with divine government. I am here to help with standing in the paradigm of love to help organize the organizations that support that. So it's just been very interesting to see that they're expanding also in their roles that we're viewing them and bringing them in to fill.
That is so fascinating. Thank you. I had like three beautiful directions that came up as I'm listening to you. And one is angels always respect our free will, and they always respond to our call. It's my awareness, that they
Mhm.
won't necessarily step in when we haven't asked. I mean, they're so respectful that way, except in certain circumstances. But what I got as I was listening to you, and I want to come back to this dragon energy for a minute, the fire
Mhm.
of healing, actually, since we were talking about the healing of the water. So you're a psychic, obviously, and we've had this conversation about 3D psychics, 5D psychics. It's very sweet. And yet you, I know in your world, have tired, and so have I as an intuitive. I've never really, I mean, I've said whatever, all the things. We do all the things of people just coming and saying, just tell me and
Yeah.
give me the answer and tell me what to do. And in a sense, those of us that are guiding in this way have stepped into more alignment with that angelic role of, we can't, and we've always known this, but it's like really pronounced. We cannot tell you what to do. We don't want to. We don't want to tell you what to do. We don't want to say, here's exactly what's happening and what that means for you personally, because it's essentially a path of empowerment for everyone and it is up to every single person, all of us, those of us in these type of roles, those of us in hybrid types of things that are maybe just intuitive and or maybe we're coming into our own power and being able to speak more clearly our truth. Every single one of us is called to step up to that plate of empowerment, of accountability and choice. And that to me is so, I've not looked at it exactly this way. I've been looking at it a bit, around like, wow, it's really everybody's time. It's so important. And yet, this particular flavor that we're looking at just feels so essential that we all know how much power is in our choice and actually
Mm.
how it can't be up to anybody but us. Anything, really, anything. And it's not like, oh, it's all up to me. But our world and how we move in it, we must self actualize that from our own center. And then about this fire energy, okay, because I love that that's what you're dancing with. And I have been so present to that energy. And what it showed me not too long ago, maybe 3 weeks back, and it's very akin to a warrior energy, the way the warrior is it can be a destroyer, but also is basically a fighter, a warrior for well-being, for love,
Yeah.
for truth, for light. And that dragon fire energy comes in not only in service to like the Kali destruction or the Shiva destruction or all of that, or Old Testament or Hebrew Bible destruction. I mean, there's so much of that paradigm. Uh, it also comes in as a healer. And what I noticed, like for myself, working with various energies, was that that dragon energy started coming through my body for healing where there had been trauma. And I was fascinated by that. I was like, well, look at that. Because so often we'll think of that healing energy as more of a divine mother, not dragon energy, of
Right.
something nurturing, but not necessarily something that's just like the healing comes through the fire. What's that look like to you?
So first, I just want to say before when I said like, oh yeah, I don't want to just be a fire breathing dragon. Like the dragons are super powerful. Like I've
Yeah.
worked with them. They're phenomenal. I was thinking more in terms of like on the TV shows where you see the dragons portrayed and they don't serve any purpose other than to destroy and be feared. So that's kind of what I was alluding to because dragons are so healing. Like the real dragons, the ones that we work with, they're so healing. And fire, like all of the elements, we were talking about water before. Now here we are with fire. They carry their own power of healing. Like water can pull through and wash away, and fire can burn and incinerate and transform and transmute. And that's so much of what's happening right now. And I know we weren't going here, but I just keep so I spent the weekend last weekend canvassing voters. Okay. And so I was like, what? And it's interesting where we're called to be. And I looked at it from the perspective of why am I here? Right. And part of it was to be that dragon that goes door to door and activates people into their own power. Just there was one woman who didn't want to hear anything that we had to say. And really, it was just my purpose was to just make sure that you had a plan to go vote and allow your voice to be heard. That was my purpose, right? That was it. And she didn't want to hear any of that. And she was slamming the door. And I heard the angels say right before she slammed the door, your voice is powerful. And so I said it and she slammed the door. And they were showing me like no one's ever told her that before. Right. And she was in anger and she was mad. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And I walked down the block and I heard her reopen the door. So I know she was thinking about it. And like, we don't ever know, like, who would think that that's where the path of healing is? Like, that's probably the least path of healing that anyone could think of walking. But here I am doing it and we're just here to empower each other to feel your voice is important. This choice, not just this one, every choice you make is important and can be healing. It can be that fire, it can be that water. And Yeah, that's kind of what was coming as you were asking about fire, was that whole experience and how we find ourselves in the strangest situations in order to do the work sometimes.
We do. I love what you're saying too, which is you don't know where the healing's going to happen. You don't know how you're going to be the vehicle of that next. Oh gosh, it's hard to be the knife, isn't it? It's hard to be fire. It's hard to be the thing that cuts in order for something to heal. Not for some people, but for some of us it is, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And yet how beautiful and empowering, how really, really powerful. Thank you for that. Yeah. It's simple, isn't it? You listen, you you in a sense it's like with guidance, I had this lovely little acronym, alta. First acknowledge that you have it, and then listen to it and tune in, and then take action. Actually, T was something else. It was listen, I think it was tune in, and then A was action. It was like we have to tune in, and then we have to follow through. Whatever that is for you, that's actually where the empowerment of your voice happens. Not by just knowing that you're powerful or that your voice is powerful. It's about how you listen to that, how you align with that, and how you move forward or backward or any direction or twirling or whatever it is from that truth. We have to participate. We really do. There's nobody on the sideline right now. Yeah.
No, no one. And we're all being activated more deeply into the truth of who we are, the power of our voice. Like, and this is happening all over the world, which is so interesting. Like in the last 8 to 10 years, we've been experiencing things globally, right? Instead of in isolated pockets. So we can really have this global experience of coming together, and we don't have to do it physically. We can like connect to each other and feel each other, and so many people are waking up to that, and that's why so many people are so deeply affected by things that are happening to people across the globe. And it's really beautiful to see, and it's also really hard to see for those of us who are seeing people feeling other people's pain for the first time, right?
Oh,
Mm.
yes. Okay, so there's all kinds of awakening is always in all of its dimensions, whether it's to the world and to others, whether it's to your own personal transcendent beyond just your person nature of oh these lives and those gifts and that star lineage and all of that stuff, or whether it's to a complete transcendence of any identification with any of it. All parts of awakening mean we let go of the way we used to see something and we see it in a new way. And we not only see it, we experience it in a new way. And frequently that is a loss of innocence as at the same time that it's wondrous. It's like all of the things. I mean, I remember some of those aspects of that type that you're speaking into of awakening for myself. It was like it was just painful. It was almost too much. There's a reason why we stay asleep in various ways, because to see first until it's not, because it doesn't stay that way the same way, it's really painful. And part of the reason it's painful is because it touches on our own pain. And we haven't dealt with that yet either. And so, this whole aspect of opening into what we haven't seen and known, we've seen the memes. It's like, oh, awakening is like om and up in bliss. And actually, it's just this big mess at first. And then it becomes a different kind of chaos in the midst of stillness
Yeah.
and eventually just a deep peace. And yet, it is painful to see people waking up in these ways and ourselves in whatever ways we are. Yeah.
Right. And it's just so interesting because I feel like for those of us who've been doing this for a while now, like we kind of sought out the awakening, or we sought to go deeper because it started happening in a little way, right? Because back then the energy wasn't the way it is now on the planet. It was a
Yes.
lot more dense, and things happened at a slower rate. Unless there was like a major thing that happened, and you had to awaken quickly. But now people aren't asking for it. They're just living their lives doing the same thing day after day, and all of a sudden all these gifts are opening up that they didn't want. They have no idea what to do with, and it's scaring the
The shit
out of
out of
people.
them.
Yeah, and that's the part that when people are like, "Well, I don't understand why people think like that." Well, they're afraid. That's why they're thinking like that. They don't know what's happening. So rather than be in judgment, how can we be in compassion? How can we remember when we were there and remember that they didn't ask for this like we did, and how can we then help them along the path just by don't even have to talk, just by leading. And perfect example, like we just said. You're at this person's door. They're in fear, they're in anger, whatever it is. It's fine. And the message comes through, you give it, you move on. And then how they want to interpret it is up to them. They can choose to open the window and throw it out. If but to know that someone has seen them and connected with that part of them that they weren't connected to before,
Mm.
that stays, right? People that's the one thing, that they say, we're dealing with some family members with dementia. People forget what you did, but they never forget how you made them feel. And so making someone feel seen, understood, like they're okay, then that goes miles to making them be able to exist in more peace. And I think that's where we're at right now. The peace is internal
Yeah, and
before it's
it's
external.
it's another languaging around that might be also it's another dimension because
Mm,
we it really is. It's about really transcending functioning from our smaller self and no, those people's human selves didn't choose it. There's most difficult things in my life I didn't choose humanly, but I
no,
also feel like I
soulless.
probably chose them at a different level. So we are moving into dimensional awareness, and lots of people refer to that as our fifth dimensional heart and
Yeah.
that space of divine knowing and love. And so if you're listening to this conversation, you're somebody who's called to hold an even bigger, more consistent space of that in you. Because as this is happening in the world, for those who can't yet hold it, that's what we're here for. And there's no superiority in this. There's no
No.
like, oh, well, thank God you have us. It's just
No.
it's a difficult thing to do humanly, but we're up to it. I mean, it wouldn't be here. It wouldn't be like this. Like you wouldn't have had the experience with the woman in the door if you couldn't hold the space of, I'm not actually connecting with your fear. I'm not actually talking to you mind to mind. I'm not talking to
Mhm.
you ego to ego and program to program and conditioning to conditioning and belief to belief. I'm actually just talking to you heart to heart, love to love, God being to God being. And that's what I'm going to keep doing because I can. And why would we not want to do that? I mean, come on, look at what it's like to live
No.
in that vibration.
And every soul has chosen to incarnate at this moment in time, knowing that this was the path we were on. We were on this path to ascension, a love based paradigm. And, it remains to be seen if we keep choosing the bumpy road or if we, like, take the sled. But
Let's
whatever
go
it is,
sledding. Come
exactly, please, whatever it is, we're all moving through it together. And that's the thing we need to remember when things get us like looking at each other as enemies. It really is, we're all just the same heart, and getting back to that.
We are. That's so beautiful. Wow. Yep, I can breathe that in and live that all day long, and I do not get tired living that. I only get tired and worn out and weary when I drop into a smaller frame of reference and a part of myself rather than living in that hole that you just described. So that's really beautiful medicine. Thank you. Do you have anything else that you would love to share? Yeah.
Oh, wow. There's just so much need right now in the world. So many people need comfort, so many people need reassurance, so many people need love, and not just love to be given to them, but to like have their ability to tap into their own love open up again, right? There's so many distortions of love in the world that we experience because of our distortions and the way we, our traumas and all of the things. And it's easier to function that way, especially in times of great change. But the times that we experience the most ease, the times that we experience the most beauty and the least pain is when our heart center is fully open because there's nothing for it to get stuck to, right? We don't have the attachments. We can just function and flow through the heart. So, really at the end of the day, even if I've fallen on my face 100 times that day, if I can go to bed and say, I wish to reconnect to my heart center. I wish to reconnect to love. And then just breathe that out and send it across the world. Doesn't matter. We're going to fall. We're all going to fall down. We're going to mess up. We're going to operate from those lower programs like you're talking about. But there's just so much need for love, compassion, and for people to be seen by other people, like, not just seen, like I see you on the screen, right? But to be seen for who they truly are and appreciated and loved and not feared. And so, really, I'm begging you, the angels are begging you, please, 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 can we please get on board with this? And let's let the fire burn away all of those old programs that tell us anything else that's not true. There is beauty, there is divinity in every single person. Sometimes it's really well sheltered, but the fire can burn that away as well. So
Mm,
that feels really important, and that's at the essence and the core of this based paradigm that we're in, this love based paradigm.
it is. You know, and what I saw, Teresa, as you were speaking, was that as we really commit to seeing that in every other being, and we really not just have it as a mental idea, oh, you're love, you're divine, I'm divine. We open our own hearts. That was that key piece you were speaking into. There's an openness. It's empty at the same time it's open. That's why there's nothing to stick on it. It's not full of our own stuff, so that we can perceive the truth of another being. Well, then we're also perceiving the truth of ourselves. Because if I can't perceive that about you, I can't really see it, I can't open to it, I can't fully experience it in me. It's not either or. We can't like well be like, well,
Mhm.
I know I'm love, but I know that you're not quite there yet. There's only one space there. Yeah. Wow. And if
The
somebody,
void.
as you said so beautifully, is so deeply sheltered or protected, it's then we're looking at, in a sense, we're being disproportionately persuaded by appearances because it's not the way that it looks, even though it's very persuasive that it looks that way. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. So good.
I always think about how diamonds are formed.
Hmm.
You know, they're in there.
And it looks pretty rough,
Yeah. Just
pretty
gotta
dark.
break. Just gotta break through.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so beautiful. Yeah, thank
It
you.
is. I do. That brought to mind. I don't remember what I was going through. It was many years ago, and I was on the New York City subway. And it was one of those moments, these mystical moments that happen at the most inopportune times, right? Just putting that out there, universe. If they could be more opportune, it'd be good. But I'm sitting on the subway and I had this moment where I was able to see suddenly every person in the subway car, the beauty of their soul at the same time. And so I'm sitting on this train, you know, and I'm like just weeping. It's just a hot mess. But it was this incredible, incredible amount of light and joy and beauty. And I was like, wow, that is every single person on this planet. And we know it. We just don't always get to see it. And that was just one of those moments that I will never forget. Like my soul will never forget. And yeah, it helps. It helps sometimes to just go back there and remember that.
Thank you. I feel that so deeply as you share that. It's like I'm right in it with you. And it is exquisitely beautiful. And it actually inspires me, that share inspires me to endeavor to know that more and more moment by moment. And I feel like we have these moments and they kind of connect with each other, but they stay isolated until you get enough of those moments, they become all the dots that make up a line or all the frames that make up the movie, and you can't see the individual ones anymore. They're the whole picture. They're the only thing happening. And that is my prayer. From what you just said, it just inspires me even more truly and deeply. Thank you. Yeah.
You.
So beautiful. What an amazing conversation being with you today. I'm so grateful for your time and your heart and your wisdom and all that you share, whether it be weeping on the subway or knocking on angry people's doors. I'm grateful for you in this world. Thank you. Yeah. And any final closing remarks before we wrap up today?
I think it really is just about openness. Like we're talking about these like isolated incidents like you just referred to, and then there's the work that I do in the world, but just to be open, to be placed where you need to be placed at a time where you feel called to do it. And anyone and everyone can do that. If you have an intuitive hit to go somewhere, follow the hit. And because that's how you are positioned by your guides to be exactly where you need to be for yourself and for the world. And I think if we're going to start somewhere, that's a good, especially if you're feeling you're just starting to wake up or you're deepening into something. I feel like this is the way we can best serve in these moments, because these things that we're talking about today, that's totally not the work I normally do, but it's those experiences happen, those mystical moments happen because you put yourself where you're being asked to be, no matter how strange. So,
Yeah, thank you. And we will, everyone, if you want to look below this video, you can find out more about the work that Teresa normally does and where to learn more about that and her beautiful energy updates and messages from angels and all the other pieces that's in there. Yeah. And I don't want to neglect that either. If you feel like you want to drop into any of that right now, if there's anything from that realm that wants to be shared, since we've gone in all these other directions, yeah, take a
Mhm.
moment and see if that is there.
It's beautiful. So the work that I do connect with angels, and we do a lot of healing work and like energy therapy and all of those really beautiful things. So I have a community where we do daily energy therapy so that everyone's getting healing energy at the start of every single day, as well as I do a lot of holistic healing work with people and angel messages. So those are just some of the ways that I have been asked to serve in this moment. They change periodically because all of a sudden I get like, okay, you need to pivot. Um, but currently, we're really doing some amazing work. I've been doing these intuitive healing sessions with people, and oh my gosh, the things that are happening for people in their lives are just unbelievable. Like everything from healing physical stuff to jumping timelines to finding a voice where they never felt they had one before. It's just been incredible. And I love doing work like this, and I'm sure that you'll agree with me on this. I love doing work like this because I get to see living miracles in action every day. I get to be inspired by those who I work with every day and to see people's openness and readiness and ability to create miracles. And, that's the beauty of what I do. And I'm sure you'll agree with me because it's amazing. I'm just constantly inspired by what I see happening for people and what people are creating and inviting in. And yeah, it's such a joy and an honor to be able to serve this way.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that. The miracle creation and the joy of the miracle creation.
Isn't
So good.
that
All
fun?
right, my friend. Well, so good to be with you. And
You too.
thank you again for your time and your beautiful insights and wisdom. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today, sharing this time with us. We're so grateful for your presence and for the love that you are and that beautiful bright light that you are in the world. As Teresa was saying, your voice is powerful. Yeah. So we got this. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.